This is the boogeyman killer himself. Vigo, you've told us this. You've told us how crazy John Wick is. And so all of a sudden, you gonna leave and just trust that your henchman is gonna take care of the task? For an action movie, I was really impressed with how well written the story was. You know what I mean? You know, from typical action movies, we don't really expect the story to be anything spectacular, but you know, I gotta say, for an action movie, this was not only, but it was well written. You know, people forget about the action movies. The screenplay, I gotta say, it took me by surprise because I was expecting a whole lot of action, but I got story, but most importantly, I got world. Folks, this was actually a pretty interesting screenplay. And so, yes, as I mentioned before, this is your revenge story, but it's not a typical revenge story. You see, normally in revenge stories, it is usually the loved one themselves that, you know, because of course, in this movie, you have the gangsters, the mobsters, the punk kids, as I call them. You know, they killed John Wick's dog. Now, in your typical action movies, at least the ones that I've seen, typically they would kill the wife, or the wife would die, and the revenge would be about avenging the wife. But this screenplay gave us a twist. You see, the wife at the beginning of the movie, she already died. She died of natural causes. And because of the world John Wick came from, she knew her husband well enough to know he was going to be a loner. He was going to deal with that in a very, very hard fashion. And so what she did was she gave him this dog. And oh boy, the dog was so cute. It was a cute dog. But she gave him this dog as a dying gift, a gift for him from his dying wife. That was amazing because they set it up where he gets attached to this dog. And he bumps into these guys at the gas station, and they see the dog and they bump into his house and they kill the dog. And that is amazing because the revenge story is about the dog. Obviously, it's more than about the dog. It was the last gift from his dying wife. But they killed his dog, and these guys got to go. Like, you feel for John Wick, but you do not feel for these guys. They got to go. You know what I mean? So I got to say, I was absolutely impressed by how well written the story was. And yes, it was pretty thin in terms of in that matter, you know, but it gave us some uniqueness. And the other uniqueness that it gave us, guys, you got to say the characters was fantastic. You know, people forget that the characters, that's an element of the screenplay. It's an ingredient in the pie substance. It's an ingredient in the screenplay. These were some pretty well-written characters. I thought these characters were pretty believable. These characters seemed like they belonged in the ecosystem of the John Wick world. And speaking of the John Wick world, that's it, guys. That was the writing on the wall in terms of how impressive this screenplay was. They created a world in the Continental and in the Cleaners. In this whole criminal underground that was just amazing. I mean, top notch, something like we've never seen before. I mean, come on now. We've seen mobsters and gangsters and criminal undergrounds before, but not like this. This was unique. This was different with the golden coins and the old phones. I mean, it was just something like I haven't been seen before. And as I said at the opening remarks, I didn't feel like I was needing a good action movie, but I got a good screenplay out of this action movie. So that was really well. So that was the up. Now let me give you the down. You see, because there were some things that I thought about this screenplay, though I absolutely love the world. I really love the characters. I thought they fit really well within the world. And yes, I love that it was a twist. It was a different type of screenplay. But you know, the down is this. First, the dialogue, it wasn't the best. You got that scene where Keanu Reeves, John Wick, is in the scene. He's like, hey, people keep asking me my back and I haven't really been giving them an answer. Well, yes, I'm back. I'm thinking I'm back. Look, as far as the screenplay, the dialogue just wasn't the best. That was not the best dialogue, but you bought into it because, he's John Wick saying it. And so, it didn't, it was still all in good fun, but, it wasn't the best dialogue. So that's the one thing. The other thing is that, do you guys remember when Viggo decided to go after John Wick? Like, he was afraid of John Wick throughout the whole movie. And then all of a sudden he turned and he wanted to go after John Wick. He wanted to kill John Wick. Now, I had a lot of friends that were just like, that was completely ridiculous. There's no reason why he should have wanted to go after John Wick after he had been scared. But I say, I think it was pretty amazing, actually. And it made sense. Because if you think about it, Viggo gave John Wick the place to find his son after, John broke out of his custody. And John went and did the deal. He went and killed his son. He got rid of his son. And so Viggo, you can kind of see that, the character is kind of at a loss. He's kind of at the end of his ropes. He's feeling basically he went out to John almost like at a death wish. That's the way I looked at it. I thought it was kind of like a death wish. So it made sense to me why Viggo would want to go after John Wick. But guys, what did not make sense to me was why John wanted to fight Viggo. You guys remember that? You guys remember in the end where John Wick got a gun and he had been killing people throughout the movie quite well, I might say. But he's been popping people off throughout the entire movie. And then you have Viggo, in the rain, wanted to go out to John Wick and they got the 1-2, right? But here's the thing. What's crazy about that is I understand why Viggo wanted to go after John, but why in the world would John want to fight Viggo? You going to toss away the gun, John? That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, come on. You going to toss away the gun so you can fight Viggo? Why not just shoot him? Just get it over with. You were the one who's supposed to not want to be about the business anymore? You want to fight Viggo? Anyway, I just thought that was pretty ridiculous that they wrote in there that he would fight Viggo. Again, it made sense why Viggo would want to fight John, but not John wanting to fight Viggo instead of just killing him like he's been doing to everybody else in this film. Especially considering that the Viggo had killed his, pretty much probably his only friend in this industry, in this underworld. Yeah, Viggo killed your boy. He killed your boy. You would think he would just want to kill Viggo, but no, that I thought that was ridiculous. The other thing I thought it was ridiculous was this. That scene where John is in Viggo's custody, and this is the most irate that we have seen Viggo throughout the entire film. The entire film, Viggo has been kind of afraid, but he's still been kind of collected. But, when John, burned all of the leverage in that church, Viggo was just not having it. He was upset. He was afraid. And, he was incensed. He gets John into custody. John is tied up in a chair. It made no sense why Viggo would leave the room to have his henchmen deal with John Wick. It was ridiculous. This is the boogeyman killer himself. Viggo, you've told us this. You've told us how crazy John Wick is. And so all of a sudden, you're going to leave and just trust that your henchman is going to take care of the task? Come on. How many impossible tasks have this guy pulled off? How many times this guy have escaped death and you're going to leave? You might want to make sure that the job gets done, Viggo. I thought that was a pretty lazy writing there. Especially considering, this is John Wick. You would think Viggo would want to pull the trigger himself, right? It's not like Viggo has anything better. Viggo, what better do you have to do than to pull the trigger on John Wick yourself? Made no sense. So that's some of the down on the screenplay, but here's the all around. I gave you the up, I gave you the down. Here's the all around. Guys, I really was impressed with the screenplay. And I gotta say that the world they built is noteworthy. They're gonna get a noteworthy bonus because of that. The world they built was immersive. It was amazing. It was well written. They seemed to have thought of everything. They really made it feel like a world. It didn't feel like a gimmick. It felt like a real criminal underground world. I was like, man, is this real? Like, what's going on, right? It was really, really cool. And the way they played everything off, the way people knew each other, I absolutely loved it. That was really cool. So the overall, I was very impressed with the screenplay. And, especially for an action movie, was not expecting that. It was simple, but it was effective. So let me go ahead and give this thing a score and a verdict. John Wick's, the screenplay, it earned 65%, scoring 14.3 out of 22 points. So this is a decent screenplay with a major noteworthy bonus. Peace in, my friend. You just finished watching a segment of a Movie Pie episode. If you liked it, give me an up and click right here where you might enjoy another segment, or if it takes your fancy, click right here to enjoy a full episode while I enjoy a cup of coffee. Or is that tea? It's better anyway.